Hello everyone. My name is Elise. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are going to be doing a book haul revisit video. This is the first time I've done this on my channel, and it's because I have now had my channel for a full year. Wow. And I can look back to a year ago at a book haul that I did for a month and see which books I've read and which books I have not. This is very much inspired by Greg at Supposedly Fun. I will link his channel down below and I'll put his latest book haul revisit video that he's done. So I'm gonna follow a similar format, but there will be some differences. Basically, this is a video for myself because I want to look back at the books that I have previously bought to see if I've read them or not, basically to make sure that I'm reading the books that I'm bringing in and reevaluate my buying habits. But the other thing that I'm going to do is at the end of the video, for all of the books that I have not read yet, I'm going to pick one to put on my TBR for the following month. So right now we're in July. I'm going to be looking at the books for July 2022 that I bought and picking one to put on my August TBR. So that's a little bit of what the format is going to be. I will say this isn't going to have the most detailed blurbs. So I'll always link the original book haul down below, which will include more thorough blurbs because it would just take me forever in order to do that. But I will talk a little bit about why I bought each book, if I can remember. If I've read them, I'll tell you whether or not I liked it. And then for the ones that I haven't read, I might do a little blurb refresher in order to help me pick the one that I want to put on my TBR for next month. So that's a little bit of the format. Other thing to note really quickly is you're going to be easily able to tell which ones I read or not, because the ones that I have not read, I'm going to be physically holding up because they're on my TBR shelves that are very close by and easily accessible to me. The ones that I have already read, which are located in my basement, not the description down below, but my literal basement where I live, are not as accessible to me because you may or may not know, I've said this in like every video lately, I've been on crutches for the past 5 weeks and I cannot easily make it down there and back with things in my hands. So for now, you will be able to know which ones I've read or not, but hopefully that doesn't matter and you like the pretty pictures that will arrive. So let's go ahead and get into the books. First books that I brought into my library in 2022 of July are the next 3 at the time volumes in the Spy Family series. This is a manga series that follow a spy, a telepath, and assassin. It's very fun. I love this series. I brought in volumes 5, 6, and 7 that month. I have already read these and I very much enjoyed them. I think right now I've read through volume 9, which is the latest to be released. 8 or 9. I can't quite remember. I think it's 9. So yes, I'm caught up on this series. There will be more of these in future month book hauls, and these were very great. So highly recommend if you like the Spy Family series, and if you haven't tried it before and you're interested in starting a manga, this is a great pick. So those are the first ones. Yay for having read the first 3. Next up, we have Carnality. This is by Lina Wolff. And this I have also read. I read this pretty recently. I want to say I read it like 2 months ago or something like that. And to be honest, I bought this because of the cover. I bought this at my favorite indie close to me, Queen Anne Book Company. I absolutely love them. They have an entire section dedicated to translated literature, and this is indeed translated. It's translated from the Spanish by Frank Perry. I can't believe I remember that. I won't be able to remember that for all of them, I'm sure. So this one was actually at their new releases table. They have a new release table right when you walk in, and they very much champion translated literature as a whole. So they'll include translated literature in that new release table, even though they aren't going to be like the biggest releases per se. This was there. The cover caught my eye because it's gorgeous. And I read the back and it seemed like it was going to be very plotty, and I was in the mood for a rompy ride. And man, woo, let me tell you, this was crazy. Like actually crazy. I think I talked about this in the wrap up it was in, but it took me a full half an hour to relay just the plot to one of my friends because there's that much plot going on. it is absolutely wild. It would be a spoiler for me to tell you where it goes, but yeah, know that it's got a ton of plot, but it's weird, like very weird. So yeah, go with that with, you know, open eyes and an open heart maybe to see where it goes. So that is Carnality, and I have read that one as well. So far I'm doing good. Oh, what things are going to change? Things are, the tides, they are changing. So next up we have one that I have not read, and it's Where the Wild Ladies Are. This is by Aoko Matsuda, and it's translated by Polly Barton. I think it's translated from the Japanese, but let me check. Yeah, it is. And this is published by Soft Skull Press. It's a short story collection, which Soft Skull Press does a lot of, and beautiful cover as well. I recently heard someone talk about this, and it reignited my passion to want to read it. But I can't remember who it was. So let's read a little bit of the blurb, since this one I haven't read yet. This says, a busybody aunt who disapproves of hair removal, a pair of door-to-door salesmen hawking portable lanterns, a cheerful lover who visits every night to take a luxurious bath, a silent house caller who babysits and cleans while a single mother is out working. Where the Wild Ladies Are is populated by these and many other spirited women who also happen to be ghosts. Whoa, that's a twist I was not seeing coming. Okay, I'm gonna stop there because I don't want to just read you the whole blurb, but I did not remember the thing about ghosts. Okay, this actually makes so much sense because this book I planned to read in October, and I kept thinking to myself, like, I know I planned to read this in October, but I don't remember why. Now I remember why. It's got ghosts. So yeah, this won't be one of the ones going on my TBR for August because I know I want to save it for October, but there is Where the Wild Ladies Are. So that is that one. Okay, next one we have, oh, it's another one that I have not read, and that is Serve the People by Lianke. This is translated from the Chinese by who? By Julia Lovell, and this is published by Black Cat. The reason why I initially picked this up, I remember it very vividly, is that this is a banned book in China, and so smartly, one of the blurbs that they've put in the back, it's this blurb, is the notice that the Chinese government put out banning the book. And I think it's so fucking funny that they did that. So let me just read you the banned notice that went out. It says, this novel slanders Mao Zedong, the army, and is overflowing with sex. Do not distribute, pass around, comment on, excerpt from it, or report on it. And that's from the Chinese Central Propaganda Bureau. I think that's so funny, like that's so genius to put that on the book. And yeah, I want to read it just for that alone. So I think this is supposed to be a satire of the Chinese government. And yeah, I can't wait to read this. I'm glad it reminded me about this because I don't often look at this one, but that is Serve the People. Very much still interested in that. Next book we have another one that I've read, Portrait of an Unknown Lady. This is by Maria Gainza, and it's translated from the Spanish by Thomas Bunstead. I can't remember, I can't believe I'm remembering the authors and the translators for this. But yeah, this one I thought was so. I read this one for my Catapult Publisher Taste Test video and thought it was middling. I do think it's very experimental, and I appreciated what she was doing with the form. I definitely want to check out Optic Nerve by her, which I think is her most lauded book. And this is about a woman who is very passive, doesn't have a lot of personality, falls under the wing of this very magnanimous art dealer, and she dies early on, the art dealer. You know this, it's in the blurb. And there was this lore for her around a forger that she had worked heavily in the past, and her assistant now starts becoming increasingly obsessed with finding the forger. So that's a little bit of the story. The format is really unique. There's a section of the book told in interviews. There's a section of the book told in blurbs about specific art pieces. It's a really fascinating look on what is plagiarism. I just don't think there was enough of a through line for me. It was a little too fragmented for my personal liking, but if that sounds interesting in you, definitely pick it up. But yeah, another one that I have read, so happy for that. Next up, we have Dead Souls by Sam Riviere. This is another one for that Catapult taste test video, and this I did not like. I slogged through this one. I restarted it as well. I read the first 50 pages and then took a break and restarted it. And I just remember this book feeling so masculine. I don't know if that makes sense, but it felt so masculine to me. It was very much like man talks about art and the publishing industry, and I just didn't like it. It's not to say that like other people wouldn't love that. It just wasn't for me. It is a scathing takedown of the publishing industry, specifically from the point of view of them not valuing poetry and maybe like the art of it all. So that is Dead Souls. Stunning cover, but not a book for me. But I have read it, so yay. Next up, we have, wow, another one I have read. I'm doing way better than I thought. This is The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. I also read this in a video. I think I read this with The Fire This Time, which is a nonfiction collection edited by Jesmyn Ward. That is kind of a companion novel to this one, or like a sequel of sorts. And yeah, I very much enjoyed this. It's very famous. It consists of a letter and an essay by James Baldwin. He's a wonderful writer. The essay was very interesting, and the letter was very heartfelt. So highly recommend. Definitely enjoyed this. Next up, we have one that I have not read, and that is The Lonesome Bodybuilder. This is by Yuiko Matoya, and it's translated by Asa Yoneda. And I think this is translated from the Japanese, but let me check. Yes. Oh, and this is also by Soft Skull Press. So I bought 2 short story collections translated from Japanese by Soft Skull Press in that month. And this one I recently heard, who was it? Jen Campbell talk about this, and I'm not sure the video, but she had read it a while ago and was doing a video that it came up again and said that she very much enjoyed it. So again, it kind of reanimated me to get to this. I do love the cover. This one won a couple of prizes in Japan, and let me read you the first portion of the blurb. A housewife takes up bodybuilding and sees radical changes to her physique, which her workaholic husband fails to notice. A boy waits at a bus stop, mocking commuters struggling to keep their umbrellas open in a typhoon, until an old man shows him that they hold the secret to flying. A saleswoman in a clothing boutique waits endlessly on a customer who won't come out of the fitting room and who may or may not be human. A newlywed notices that her spouse's features are beginning to slide around his face to match her own. Sounds very surrealist. Sounds intriguing enough for me. There's 11 short stories in this collection. And yeah, this is definitely one that I want to get a hold of at some point. It's blurb by Carmen Maria Machado, which is always a good sign. And it says it's charming, bizarre, and uncanny. So that matches with the blurb, I think. So that is The Lonesome Bodybuilder. If you read this, let me know what you thought of it. Next up, we have Saint X. This is by Alexis Schaitkin, and I think it's published by Celadon, I think. And I feel like I also read this recently, maybe like a couple months ago as well. It is a literary thriller that is kind of a critique on true crime in a way. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure what to expect going into it and was very captivated by it. I thought the story it was trying to tell of the sort of like collateral damage of someone's murder or disappearance is very far-reaching. It specifically follows the perspective of her sister, who gets caught up in the investigation because she runs into one of the boys that was initially accused of murdering her. So that is Saint X. I really enjoyed it. If you're looking for a literary thriller, I think it's a really great one. It has major White Lotus vibes. So if you like White Lotus, this could be a good one to pick up for you, especially the second season specifically. So that is Saint X. Another one that I have read. What is even going on? Oh, okay, we're hitting the bad streak. We're hitting the bad streak. So next up we have Fight Night by Miriam Toews. This is a novel, I don't even think her most recent novel at this point, but it follows 3 generations of women, I believe. And I think I might also be talking about pregnancy. I have no idea. But yeah, I definitely do still want to get to this. I've heard multiple people say that they really liked it. I've heard multiple people say that they didn't like it. So yeah, this would be my first Miriam Toews. I also have all my Punny Sorrows. Is it punny or puny? I've always wondered that. All my puny sorrows, all my punny sorrows? I do not know, you tell me. But yeah, I love a generational story about women. I think Miriam Toews is supposed to be like a smart, sharp writer, and I definitely want to read something by her. So that is Fight Night. There she is. And next up we have The Guide by Peter Heller. I picked this up because I read The River by Peter Heller a while ago. I want to say in like 2019 or something, 2020. And I enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much as some other people did, but this one sounded interesting to me because it incorporates not our pandemic per se, but a pandemic. It came out after the pandemic, and it's about a resort, like a forest mountainside resort where very wealthy people can go, and the air and the water and everything there is very clean, so you can't get sick there. But only wealthy people can go there, obviously. It's from the perspective of one of the guides that's working there, and I think it's supposed to be a take on classism. So it sounds interesting. It has gotten very mixed reviews from the few people that I've seen review it. So that's a little bit of why I haven't been super inspired to pick it up thus far, but I'm still gonna try it. I don't get rid of books if I don't at least try them, with some very few exceptions, but I always try them before I get rid of them. So this one could be on the chopping block, but who knows? It has a gorgeous cover, so that's a good thing. So that is The Guide. Next up, another one I have not read, I said we were on a down streak, is The High House. This is by Jessie Greengrass, and I have been thinking about this one recently. I always forget what it's about, and then when I reread the blurb, I'm like, whoa, that sounds so good. Why haven't I read it yet? So let me read you a little portion of the blurb as well. It says, perched on a sloping hill set away from a small village by the sea, the High House has a tide pool and a mill, a vegetable garden and a greenhouse, and most important, a barn full of supplies. And I think this is about a climate scientist. Well, I think it's actually from the perspective of her son, but his mom is a climate scientist, and she has turned her property and land basically into an ark for when the time comes. And I think she's anticipating a very like biblical type flood, and that sounds very interesting to me. It says it's a searing take on parenthood, sacrifice, love, and survival under the threat of extinction. Doesn't that sound so good? Like, I love some religious commentary, and I also think like the plot sounds like it's going to be very interesting. So this is definitely a contender for me. I very much want to pick this up at some point. So that's The High House. Let me know if you have read this and what you thought. All right. Oh, okay. And then we go into a series of books that my mother-in-law sent me. This is so fitting because I just did that vlog of reading books my mother-in-law sent me. So here I am in shame talking about all 3 of these books because, spoiler alert, I have not read them. So we could already do a round 2 of that video, and maybe we'll need to do that at some point. So first one is The Last Thing He Told Me. This is by Laura Dave. Dave? Why does that not sound familiar? But who knows? Okay, by Laura Dave. This was very buzzy. I think it won the Goodreads Choice Awards in the thriller category the year it came out. And actually, isn't it also a series now? I think it's also a series now. So this one I think is about a woman who starts a relationship with a man who has a daughter. He goes missing, leaves a note saying to like take care of her or something like that, and we go from there. It sounds interesting. I've heard mixed things about the book and the movie, but clearly a ton of people liked it. So yeah, I'll still have to get to this one at some point. So that is the last thing he told me. Next up, we have another thriller, and that is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I have read The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and I know people have said that this is a slower paced book, and I'm actually okay with that. I tend to like slower paced thrillers. So I think this one could really be a win for me, and I definitely still want to get to it. My recollection is it follows a young female protagonist who goes to Paris to visit her brother, and when she arrives, he is not there, and she decides to, she's going to stay in his apartment and wait for him, and the longer she is waiting for him, the more she starts to realize that the neighbors in this apartment complex are acting very strangely. So yeah, that is The Paris Apartment. Definitely interested in this one as well. So let me know what you thought of that one if you read it. And lastly, the last thriller that my mother-in-law sent me is Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. I have not read from Rachel Hawkins before, but I did hear good things about this. And this is supposed to be a retelling of And Then There Were None. Is that correct? Yes. Reimagining of the Agatha Christie classic. So I heard a couple people review this, and they said that it was like very plotty, very engaging, very easy to read. And this would be a really good summer book. Look how summery the cover is. And August is technically the last month of summer. Something to think about. So that is Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. And the front says, "They're dying for an escape." Okay. So those are all of the books that came in for the month of July. I do think July ended up being a bigger book haul because in the book haul video, I say that I hadn't bought any books the previous month. And so I went like buck wild in July. So there are 9 books that I have not read yet. I didn't even add up how many I had read. Let me add them up really quick. Okay, so I read 8 and haven't read 9. So close to 50%. But now I need to pick the one that I'm going to put on my TBR for the month of August. So if you have any opinions about this, comment down below. You might be able to change my mind. But what I'm thinking right now, I think the 2 I have it between are these 2. Let me tell you why. 1, this just because I'm very interested in the premise, and I think this is something that I'm very much going to like, and I'm in the mood for some religious commentary. So that's why I'm thinking the High House. I'm thinking this because August is Women in Translation Month, the best month of the year, and this is a woman in translation, and it's also translated by a woman as well. So that is nice. This is also a woman in translation book, but I am saving this for October, like I said, so I'm not going to pick that one. So between these 2, what to do? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to officially pick this one because it's Women in Translation Month. So this is going to go on my TBR to be read in August. And then I'm also, this is the official pick, but this one is going to be the unofficial pick. I'm going to put it on my TBR shelves. I have separate shelves in my bedroom that I put my TBR on, so they're just like in my face constantly. And I'm also going to put this there, but it's not going to be the priority to get to. This will be the priority, but I'm also going to have this there. So let me know what you thought of this. Let me know what you think of the 2 books that I'm picking to put on my TBR. And of course, what you thought of any of these other books. If you've read them, if you've not read them but are interested, if you hate them, you can tell me that too. But yeah, that is the first book haul revisit video for 2023. I'm very excited to be doing this and looking back on the books that I have not read. And hopefully next year in July, I will have finished all of these by then. So I will see you all in the next one. Bye.